30 years ago, just after my 21st birthday, I purchased a set of wine glasses. I bought them because they weren't like a standard wine glass. They were a smoky gray color and had a very short stem on them. The gray color got darker as it went down the glass, and it was almost black at the base. They were a nice thick glass with a bit of weight to them. Since my 21st birthday, I've lived in many places, and as so often happens in a move, things get lost or broken. By the time I moved to where I currently live, about 15 years ago I'd say, I was down to just one of those wine glasses. I was always very careful with it, because I hadn't seen any others like it in all these years. After my daughter turned 21, she decided that wine was her drink of choice, and we often jokingly argued about who got to use them, and who had to use a regular wine glass. This went on for a couple of years, until one day we'd stopped at a dollar store to grab a few things. We noticed that on the shelf were these wine glasses. They looked exactly like the smoky wine glasses I'd bought 30 years ago, and they were $1 each. There were only 3 of them, so I bought them all. Although I wasn't entirely sure they were an exact match, but if they were, I would have a set of 4 again. We were about an hour away from home, and weirdly excited about our find. So excited that we couldn't wait to see if they were the same, and if they were a perfect match. We ended up washing them, and that night, we both had a glass of wine in these cool new glasses, and we gave them a little clank as we enjoyed our wine and our find. About a month later, we decided to have a glass of wine. As my daughter was getting the glasses out of the cupboard, she dropped one and it shattered on the floor. We both looked at each other and laughed, grateful that we'd bought 3 instead of just 1. That meant we didn't have to go back to arguing over who got to use the cool wine glass. Not long after my daughter moved out into her own apartment, she was busy with life and we didn't see each other often. I decided that when she would come home to visit, I would surprise her with a cool wine cabinet and have it stocked with loads of different wines. That way, we could try them all out together. After it was finished, I was putting the wine in it, and there was enough space to put the wine glasses in the front. I thought they'd be very nice in the lighting that I had installed. I went to get the glasses out of the cupboard, and there were 4 of them. I couldn't believe it. I began wondering if maybe I'd dreamed she broke the glass, and decided that I must have, or nothing else would make sense. I didn't call and ask her, because I wanted the cabinet to be a surprise. She knows I don't drink alone, and she would be wondering what I was doing, trying to dig out the wine glasses as if they were in the back of the cupboard. Not long after she came over and was impressed with my little project, we decided we needed to get busy trying out all the new wines. She opened the cabinet, and seeing the 4 smoky gray glasses, she turned and looked at me with a weird face. She said, "How are there 4 of them? I broke one." I told her I thought she had, but I'd convinced myself that I dreamt it and there was no other explanation. She said, "No, I definitely broke one. It shattered everywhere." We were both confused, and quite frankly, we were a little creeped out as well, but it didn't stop us from enjoying our wine. There are still 4 glasses there, and to this day, I don't know if somebody came in my building or in my home. But if they did, I hadn't noticed them. But these glasses were too mysterious to not think otherwise. When I was a kid, my mom and my grandmother both worked at this historical Victorian house. It was eventually turned into a museum, a restaurant, a place for weddings, etc. I was around 6 at the time, and they were working on closing up the shop and the gift shop. Me, being a kid, wanted to go upstairs and play in the dollhouse room and the museum part of the building. They said it was okay, but that the door was locked, so I could only look inside through the little window in the door. I didn't care. I loved dollhouses as a kid, so I ran up there excitedly. I started to look at all the old-timey houses and dolls. and when I looked in the corner, I saw something that was beyond weird. There was an older woman with hair tied up in a bun and a white gown of some sort. I thought it was someone who accidentally got locked in there, so I ran back downstairs to let my grandmother know. The whole room went quiet. My grandmother told me to stay downstairs with my mom in the gift shop while she went upstairs to check it out. As these stories usually end up going, there was no one up there. When I got a little older, I learned that this place was well known for something that happened in the 70s, and it was said to be haunted by a woman who'd fallen off the top floor. It was late at night, and she was a little older, so she always wore the white sleep gowns. It was the kind of story that made small towns start locking their doors and closing their windows at night. My mom told me that she would often see her silhouette while driving past the place at night. It's all spooky stuff, and of course, you're probably not inclined to believe me, so I can't blame you if you don't, but I promise you that this actually happened to me, and I can't quite explain it. This story happened at the theater where I was a technical director at. At the time, I was an assistant technician. The technician director, Patrick, and I were working on the overhead theatrical lights. Of course, we were trying to get everything ready for the show. As usual, we were working late night into the early morning. We would frequently hear noises while working. These involved creaks, groans, and a bunch of others. We would always attribute it to the building probably expanding or contracting as the temperature changed. One night, we'd rented a skylift to reach the lights over 20 feet in the air. We were finished with it for the night and had placed it in the corner at the rear of the theater to recharge, of course. It had been sitting back there for a while. Meanwhile, Patrick and I were sitting on the edge of the stage, just talking, when we heard a loud noise from the rear. We turned to look and saw the safety chain on the lift bucket wildly swinging. Patrick and I looked at each other, and in unison we said, "Ghosts." We were the only corporeal beings in the building. Since then, we made it a habit to say hello every time we entered the theater. We would also wish them a good night as we would leave. I continued to do so until the day the theater closed. With all the dangers of working high overhead, the spirits have been very benevolent to us, and they protected us. There's been several times when we were saved from falling. I've since also found out that the ghost was the janitor that used to take care of the building and the nearby school. I guess he's still taking care of the building he managed for years. And not only that, but he's taking care of us too.